Okay, this thing's working. It wasn't working for a second there. Okay, so I see a lot of these guys talking about two different methods. They're talking about the top-down approach or the bottom-up approach. And the only reason that I ever do a top-down approach is if I'm having real trouble with the upper register, which sometimes I am. Sometimes I am. You know, it's not going to be perfect every single day. Generally speaking, it's because of things like allergies, or maybe I got a little heartburn or something, and that can cause some problems. It's not going to be too terrible, really. But when it comes to singing, I think that the bottom-up method is much, much better, and I don't believe that there is such thing as pulling chest. I believe that there is such thing as thinning out the chords and thickening the chords, okay? And so there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me on this, and I don't really care because none of them sing like me, okay? Now, I'm not the best at this super sky-high power metal falsetto type stuff. I'm really not. I don't really care too much about it. I'm more about hard rock, singing up to maybe a high C, high D, E flat, E maybe at the most. I'm not really about singing much higher than that, and I can do it, but I never really trained for it. I like it to be a little bit heavier. Okay, now that's what I like with the sound. Okay, and if you look at the way that opera singers would train, especially the tenor opera singer, they would train all the way up through their entire range, and they would do this with the pharyngeal voice, and you can hear. Nicola Martinucci. I've been listening to a lot of this guy. This guy is absolutely incredible. And there's a lot of videos I could show you, but this one is specifically just him. Okay, now, first of all, he's 73 years old in that video. Okay, he's 73 years old. And it's pretty freaking incredible. Like, first of all, okay, another thing that I gotta say is that's not chest voice, okay? That's in the falsetto register. It's a different kind of resonance, but the chords are so together that it sounds like it's in a chest voice, but it doesn't quite function that way. It's in the middle of it, okay? It's a pharyngeal, it's a mix, whatever you want to call it, and you can hear him ping, you know, you can hear that resonance, and he even, when he's demonstrating stuff in like the lower register, he sings it in a very, very nasal, resonating voice, and I'm not going to try and sing like him because he'd kick my ass. He's one of the best opera singers of all time, and he's kind of a neglected opera singer to some degree, except for in Italy. In Italy, he's huge, but he's not Bocelli or Pavarotti or some of these guys that really got big. But that's what a true upper register, especially a rock sound, should be sounding like up there. You should be really, really pinging it into the mask, okay? That's where you're going to get the power of the voice, okay? You want a powerful belted sound, a powerful heavy sound. And I don't really want to say yelled. It is yelled, but it's not full volume. He's right at like 98% right there. He's not quite full volume to where you're doing what's known as pressing against the voice. When you're pressing against it, you're just singing with full volume, trying to push the voice through, and that can lead to a lot of problems. And oftentimes you get permanent damage with bowed vocal cords, which he does have on here a little bit. His vibrato, that's that real long vibrato, that's from bowed vocal cords, unfortunately. But he's 73 years old, you know. It's kind of amazing that he can sing the way that he does. I mean, he probably has very slight problems other than that, which is kind of inevitable if you're singing loud. If you sing loud, you're going to get bowed vocal cords eventually. Singing with a smaller voice, a pharyngeal voice, is going to help. But I still just don't understand why all these people want to go against the tradition of the tone that is that. I am someone who's just basically of the mind that there is no tone that is better than that. I don't believe that there is. And if there is no tone that is better than opera, I think that they've perfected it, then why would you try to do some other technique? Why would you try to reinvent the wheel? Take those exercises that these opera singers use and simply just brighten them up, bring the resonance in here, instead of I can't even do it how they do it. He kind of it's a different it's a different shaping of the mouth. It's a much darker, a much heavier, bigger tone. But with a rock singer, it's a real small, bright tone. But the upper register is still pretty much the same. Listen to how bright it is. In fact, go watch videos of him, and he's up in the mask to some degree. He's not fully there, but he's still up in the mask, and he's changing the vowel oftentimes to an I, which is a very, very small vowel. Okay, E oftentimes would change to it, and there's a video of him actually modifying an ah to a double E, so a ah into the upper register. Ah, it's the ah, okay, and that's what he's doing to try and get that pharyngeal really pinging into the upper register there. And I have no clue what notes I was singing there. I'm not sure how clean that was, but you get the point. That's what he was actually doing. And there's different ways of doing it. Ron Anderson would teach you to take it towards an I actually tend to agree with Ron on this one, actually. Although I think that there might be times where you're like, okay, I need to get it a little bit harder. Okay, it's like you're taking a hose, you're pouring the hose is on, you're turning the thing on, and it's shooting out, however far, a couple of feet. Then you put your thumb over it, and all of a sudden it starts shooting out. That's what the pharyngeal is doing. And that's what he's doing on that high C. That's how he's doing it. And this has been a technique that's been around for a really, really long time. And he's singing with it in the lower registers as well. It's just a very, very dark sound. It's a covered sound to some degree, not fully covered. He's not quite Pavarotti covered, which I like Pavarotti's voice, but not for rock. It's not something you can transfer over to rock. Martinucci is more of a voice that you can learn from to kind of learn to sing with a brighter sound, which is why I like him more as far as an opera singer to listen to. But I mean, I listen to these guys, and I don't really want to name names. I'm kind of, I'll talk crap on Seth Riggs, and that's about the only guy because he's terrible for rock music. He's good for pop music, I guess, but he's terrible for rock music, and so are so many other vocal coaches. If you want to get good at rock music and sustain your voice, you need to study opera, and you need to study it in the right way, okay? The only difference is that rock singers brighten up their voice. They don't sing quite as loud, not quite, okay? And they scream, okay? That's really the only difference. You brighten up the sound. You don't push the volume quite as hard. You don't really need to. The brightness of the sound, it's like I said, it's like putting your thumb over it. If you tried singing real dark, like Martinucci, is compared to a rock singer, you would notice that you'd actually have a little bit more room for volume. Your throat would open up a little bit more. You'd have a little bit more room for the volume to get through. But it's not really a sound that's fitting for rock. That would never work. I mean, you couldn't even hear a Jeff Tate singing like that. I mean, maybe he would sing that way. But Jeff Tate is still kind of pulling back on the volume and, just using the hose. He's doing the same thing. Although he really pushed with volume for a lot of years, and I think that's why he's having trouble with his voice. He never really got everything to be consistent. He's always kind of in a weird kind of spot where he's too thick with the chords, and it's kind of unfortunate that he's in the position that he's in right now. And probably smoking cigarettes didn't help. But I think that opera is the true way to go. And so I just wanted to recommend a couple of books to you guys. The first book is called The Voice of the Mind by Eduardo Cesare. Okay? You can get his other book, Vocal Tones and Sensations. They're both very good. And I think he actually has one other book. I'm not exactly sure. But his book, The Voice of the Mind, covers everything perfectly, exactly the way that I think of technique. And it's kind of one of those books where you'll sit there and you'll read it once, and then you really truly understand how the voice works and what you're supposed to be doing. The other book that I would recommend is a book by William Vennard. Okay, and I forget exactly what it's called, but William Vennard with a V, Vennard, William Vennard. He should pop up on Amazon, and there's a book about vocal anatomy on there and the physics of the voice, and he goes through and talks about how the tone changes in terms of resonance and the different tonal structures and sonance and different things that happen with the voice. And it's a very, very interesting take on the voice in that respect. And I think that you should be learning the anatomy of the voice so that you can understand what's really going on with it. But those would be the two books that I'd recommend. There's so many others out there, though. So many. And I would go through and despite the fact that I don't like the guy, I think that he's a terrible vocal coach. Seth Riggs's exercises, some of them are actually pretty good. And I would just stick with the typical opera exercises and none of this fucking mum shit. That's just so stupid. I'm just like, and he always be like, look, I got to a C sharp above middle C, like mum. Lady, will you believe me? My heart is gone for you. I mean, how the fuck are you gonna sing on that? It's like Axl Rose, but just corny. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on it. I would stick to opera. That's what I would go with. I mean, these singers singing up until their 70s, no problem. So, yep, over that.